Well, I'm in a happy mood right now. Ever since hearing about Devil May Cry 5, I've been working on my technique again. Though, well, in any case, the point being is, we're going to talk about something I've been thinking about a while now, and that's something I've been wanting to do. And it's something kind of like, if you know, like someone named Jim Sterling, who does the Jimquisition, he basically does a kind of weekly video thing where he talks about industry stuff and like games in general sometimes. But he talks about and informs us about things and like tries to get a point across, like trying to like make us wise. So I thought for a moment, wait a minute, why don't I do something similar? I mean, like, I won't lie, it's kind of ripping off Jim, but I hope to do it like something very different than Jim. And I really do like Jim. Like, he made me understand a lot of things and made sure that I respect him and we can disagree on a lot of things. But one of those things today is kind of review scores, where I'm kind of I want to talk about them in this way because I think most times than not, when people talk about review scores, they talk about these singular moments, not the whole of them. And generally, here's what I think. And I would like you to tell me your opinions in the comments below. If you don't like these, I understand, and I hope you'll still stay with me, because I still plan to do reviews and stuff. But in any case, welcome to Word from the Wise. Maybe I should add the Word from the Wise Gamer. Maybe that work. Nah, won't work.
When dealing with games, at some level you gotta begin to criticize a system in a game, in which that becomes a little challenging and hard, and how do we regard them with the sum total of the whole game? Because we can't just solely criticize it for that, because like if we do that would just ignore the whole idea of criticizing the whole thing in general, and judging as a whole as a part, which is odd. Which, in some regard, is strange because I see a lot of reviews on some games just either ignore big problems or really downplay it. It's quite baffling to me now to actually start critiquing stuff when I look at other reviews of games. Because sometimes I feel like when you're critiquing something, you either start feeling you're critiquing it and just becomes nitpicking, or it just comes down to how you play, which I don't lie and honestly say sometimes I do play in this weird way, but I don't know, I feel as though there's something else we're missing here. I don't know particularly what, but it feels like we're missing something. A question I should be asking is, should I, the player or reviewer, be okay with a big problem in a game and ignoring them for the whole, or should I critique this for the problem that it is, then suffer the backlash because you're criticizing one part of a game you otherwise enjoyed, but thought could be better? For example, I had heard no one ever talk about the massive problem of the Evil Within 2 combat. That you can literally play so stealthily that the enemy might as well be blind, due to the sheer nonsense of how many stealth kills you can rack up during the entire game. Which is kind of disheartening to review in general when people blatantly don't even talk about that, or the camera for that matter, which is just bad in some regard, and it's actually quite analog, which I will go into my own review for that one, but point being, could have been better. Which begs a big question now, when you think about it. How did it do so well? But, okay, that's not actually that's not the question I needed. I think that's more of a question of why myself. Okay, but point being that people are not doing their job and talking about the problem of a game that a consumer shouldn't know about. And why we aren't told is beyond me. But actually, wait a moment. Thinking. Right, genius moment. I think there are actually kind of two reasons why critiquing has become a little less nuanced in some regard. That being corporations and the audience in general. And I mean, like, I don't think the audience in general is the problem. You'll understand when I talk about it. Companies have been known to be stingy on reviewers even when they review positively, which is quite odd because, like, yeah, they're still being good praise, but it's for whatever reason people are like, what the fuck? Like, remember that guy who got fired for reviewing Kane and Lynch, Dead Man, and giving it a 6 out of 10? I'm still like, what the fuck? I wish I was joking. Though then again, this wasn't only due to this, it was due to some other bad things. I mean, I'm just saying, like, this one thing didn't cause it all. He had another one, but even then, that one was even more crazy, where that guy reviewed Ratchet and Clank, well, whichever one you want to call, it doesn't really matter at this point, a 7-ish, and saying it deserved, and Sony saying it deserved a higher mark. And I say, what the fuck? Again. But actually, the reason why he was fired was more or less due to a bad PR management group, which couldn't handle it and were basically noobs. Basically fired him because all the problem, which is now more than ridiculous. And it just kind of shows you how companies try to influence the score when that would be a terrible idea in general, especially if you get caught by your audience. Which being said, you need to change the score if you wanted to do better or some other shit like that. Because, like, scores don't really affect much. Which is odd, because 6 out of 10 is still above average. Which is odd, though maybe most likely it's because of society and, like, schooling, where, like, 70 is now considered average, which is ludicrous and makes it seem like the average is all over the place now, which is still kind of sad in the end. But it's so annoying to think that reviewers aren't keeping the consumer's interest in mind, which is just a fundamental level of wrong, and just no matter what, it's just wrong. However, I don't particularly blame them too much at the same time. But I would also like to blame the audience. And, mind you, again, subsections. The audience is also a bit of a problem. Well, okay, a small minority, which is basically assholes, and no one can remember, which actually I kind of don't. I won't need you, because you probably heard of these types already, because they only care about bashing games that they hate and only showing praise to the games they like. Which is a bad idea to argue with them, because blind fandom isn't possible to fight. I mean, seriously. I mean, these types of people will complain about an 8 out of 10. Seriously, how do I joke about that type of thing? And how does one But, in any case, these people can be forceful, really forceful, and make things a lot more complicated, and thus harder to review things properly with an audience that wants you dead. But you can all honestly say to me that this is just utter nonsense. Because also, this group of people won't really do much of anything, because they're a bunch of whining assholes who won't do anything to you. If they really wanted to do something, they would have just killed you already. But also, how the blind can also be a problem. And the last, actually, now thinking about it, there is one other group that I forgot to mention. That being the reviewers themselves. Reviewers will actually scoff at each other for giving other games low scores when everyone else does it. Kind of like this mob mentality of, well, everyone agrees on this one, why don't you? You know? And it's really kind of awkward. But in any case, I need to get back to an original question that I asked. That question being, how much should we take away from a broken system in a game than from the whole? Because we can't take too much away from it, because if we take away too much, that would seem unfair to the game and would just lower the quality of its determined value. Because we determine it as such. But though it wouldn't really deserve that. That at the same time, you have to wonder if we go too lenient, would that be allowing other bad systems to flourish? And which, I know this gets a bit more complicated, but I'm going to talk about how I kind of score a game. And I kind of like to help people understand where I come and judge a game. For example, I would like to tell you my opinion on The Evil Within 2. Yep, tying this on all together. I thought The Evil Within 2 was a 6 out of 10 at time, a 5 out of 10 at more times than none, a 4 when it's at its absolute worst. And I would like to explain how I get those standards. Basically, my scoring standard, basically, I have to separate it into 4 groups, where I rate those between 1 and 5, and those are separated into groups called gameplay, story, music, graphic, in the order of importance, because I believe that a good story is important, but it's pointless when your game is shit. For a more recent example, Yakuza 6, which, in all honesty, I made a slight error back then. I would have rated it a 6.5, but I think 6 is more accurate, and I rate each game kind of as follows. And here's how I kind of like rated it in general. Like, I gave Yakuza 2 3.544. Though that equals up to 13.5. So yeah, by having that standard, I can have a fairness for the rest of the games I review, and I would like to rate The Evil Within 2 with just a general 2.5 around the board, which kind of averages out. But then kind of circles around itself, because like The Evil Within as you know what happens when you kind of just say 2? It's just weird. I'm just saying The Evil Within kind of circles around itself, becoming like The Evil Within 2. It's just the same as its original game, which is kind of weird and because like everything was just mediocre when you think about it. But okay, that's just going into review, and I'm going to do it somewhere else. Okay? But now, then, you must be asking at some level, why do I get some rat's ass now that... And why do I care that people are rating games 10 out of 10? Well, because I've been getting back into God of War, the original ones, and no, old Kratos was somewhat better, in my opinion. New Kratos is kind of a loser. Fight me on this, because I don't believe that the game deserves a 10 out of 10, because it's not perfect. And then you would argue to me, well, of course not, it's perfect. No game is. But with everyone kind of praising it as the second coming of Jesus fucking Christ. And don't you worry, I will make a complaint about that soon enough. Oh, trust me, I've been wanting to get to that for a long time. And if you want an example of why I think that these 10 out of 10 are kind of ridiculous, remember BioShock Infinite was considered 10 out of 10. Remember that. It got a 10 out of 10, and that game was a piece of fucking shit. It is now, and it's weird how no one talks about that game anymore. And how people said it changed gaming in general even now. And yes, even The Last of Us is not as good as enough to hit the pedigree of gaming greatness. Still good. Still has the problems that no one talks about, which kind of causes the standard to drop to a point where I can't even stand it, and I hate that more people aren't not talking about this, and I do not accept perfection because perfection does not exist. And in general, following my logic here, it's a little weird. perfection should never exist because the idea of perfection means we have reached the limit of gaming. We have reached it. And I believe there is no limit to anything whatsoever. It's kind of like science. It's kind of in this perpetual loop of it must discover things or else die. You know what I mean? But my point being is this. It means we can stop criticizing something because it's perfect. And that's annoying. Because I want games to grow. I want it to do good. But I can't do that if we can't all agree on just fairly judging it. You know? And I know some people are honest, and I think some of them... And I want you to understand one more thing here. I do not care what you think about the game. I mean, that is your opinion, and you have every right to it. But I don't care what you think. I have my own opinion. And I would like you to have a standard that we can all usually agree on. I mean, like, we can argue that having a set standard of how we judge something can make something even better. And how we determine that can be very helpful in understanding this. Like, for example, I usually think that music, in general, if I can't remember or think I would stop for a moment and listen to it saying, like, that's nice. Okay, sorry, I'm going on a tangent there for a moment. My point being is, you can't tell me that not criticizing something is good. And I want you to always do me this favor. If you don't like it, don't do it. I'd rather you do it on your own. I would like you to criticize a lot more things. Criticize the things you love. Because by doing so, you'll understand why you love it. I mean, like, nothing in this world is perfect. And do not criticize it. It's to show you don't care. And I want gaming to grow. And I want you to criticize the things you love. And by showing that love to them. And so, what can I say? I hope you enjoyed my words from the wise. This is going to be the first in some other things I like doing, where I'm just going to rant on. So I'm going to try to make this more structural based, where I actually got a script. More times than not, I do have a script, but sometimes I find out that my script is like shit, and I have to go off of it. Like, here for this instance, I really had nothing at the back here. I just hope you like it. If you liked it, maybe subscribe. Who the hell knows? But hey, that's your choice. I'd rather never force anyone to do anything they don't like. In any case, see you around. Maybe next time I'll review The Evil Within 2. Well, if I can get this fucking script done. And talk about God of War next time. Maybe. I've actually had a lot of ideas in my head, but nah. Don't hold anything to me, okay?